The Grand Canyon, high above the rushing Colorado River, a lone explorer stepped into the dark. He brushed away centuries of dust from something completely extraordinary. A massive underground citadel emerged from the shadows. When venturing into these remote American badlands, one expects to find natural wonders or ancient native ruins. But the artifacts hidden inside this cavern defied all known history. What waited in the pitch black stopped the scientific community. What exactly did he find in that subterranean labyrinth? The answers challenge everything we thought we knew. At Echo Mysteries, our mission is to piece together these forgotten chapters and bring hidden archaeology out of the shadows. But we cannot make this journey without you. If this mystery sparked your curiosity, please leave a like, share this story with fellow truth seekers, and subscribe to the channel. Your support and every comment you leave is the light that guides us deeper into the unknown, giving us the motivation to uncover the world's most fiercely guarded secrets. Join us, and let's explore the impossible together. The year was 1909. The landscape of the American Southwest remained largely untamed and entirely unforgiving. Deep within the winding red rock arteries of Arizona, the Colorado River carved. G.E. Kincaid navigated these treacherous waters completely alone. He was a seasoned explorer operating in a rugged wilderness that swallowed men without a trace. His wooden boat drifted through the suffocating silence of the deep gorge. The towering sandstone walls stretched thousands of feet into the blazing sky. It was intended to be a mapping expedition. He systematically scanned the sheer cliffs for mineral deposits or geological anomalies. The burning sun beat down mercilessly. Nothing seemed out of the ordinary in this vast geological graveyard. The natural isolation of the region offered nothing but relentless wind and rushing water. He paddled further into the unexplored depths of the canyon system. The towering rock formations cast long ominous shadows across the rushing rapids. Then his eyes caught something profoundly unnatural. Etched into the ancient stone, nearly 2,000 feet up the sheer eastern wall, a strange discoloration marred the rock. It was not a simple shadow cast by the fading afternoon sun. It was a distinct chemical stain leading upward. Kincaid secured his small boat along the treacherous rocky shoreline. He began the brutal and dangerous ascent up the cliff. Scaling the near-vertical sandstone required grueling endurance. The jagged rocks tore at his hands as he pulled his body upward. Every agonizing inch of elevation brought him closer. He finally reached a narrow ledge precariously positioned above the dizzying abyss. A perfectly chiseled entrance stood concealed behind rock outcroppings. The opening was invisible from the river valley far below. The surgical precision of the archway defied natural erosion. Here the physical evidence shifts into something truly incomprehensible. Kincaid struck a match and ignited his torch. He stepped out of the blinding sunlight into the suffocating darkness. He expected to find a small abandoned native dwelling. He thought perhaps a simple animal den lay hidden within. Instead, the flickering firelight revealed a massive subterranean infrastructure. The main corridor extended deep into the solid bedrock. Symmetrical passageways branched off from a grand hall. The air felt stale and heavy with the weight of centuries. This was no temporary shelter. This was a highly engineered citadel buried deep beneath the rugged American earth. The sheer scale suggested a massive organized workforce. They had operated entirely in the dark and in total secrecy. The silence of the cavern was absolute. He pressed deeper into the cavernous void with his torch raised high. The flickering light illuminated smooth walls covered in symbols. They were not standard native petroglyphs depicting local wildlife. They were complex linear hieroglyphs resembling ancient Egyptian scripts. In the massive main chamber, silent figures emerged suddenly. Colossal stone statues sat cross-legged in the ancient dust holding intricate lotus flowers. They possessed strange facial features merging Eastern mysticism with Pharaonic grandeur. Hardened copper weapons and intricately forged metal tools lay scattered across the stone floor. Further inside, hundreds of mummified remains rested silently in systematically arranged burial crypts. They were wrapped tightly in dark fabrics that had survived the passage of millennia. None of these sophisticated artifacts belonged anywhere near the North American continent. The sheer existence of this subterranean sanctuary obliterated every accepted timeline of human migration. On April 5, the Arizona Gazette published Kincaid's explosive account on its front page. The article was titled simply "Explorations in Grand Canyon." The report sent immediate shockwaves through the local population. An entire forbidden Egyptian city had supposedly been discovered hiding in plain sight. It was a civilization at the height of its power entombed within the canyon. The news of the Arizona Gazette publication detonated across the American public like a seismic shockwave. This was not a buried footnote. It was a front-page declaration in a highly respected regional newspaper. Readers from coast to coast frantically devoured the impossible tale of a subterranean metropolis hidden beneath their feet. The article did not just offer vague rumors. It explicitly named the world-renowned Smithsonian institution as the backer. It detailed how a highly credentialed academic, Professor S.A. Jordan, was actively directing a massive archaeological extraction. Thousands of ancient relics were supposedly being catalogued. Mummies were being systematically prepared for long-distance transport. Tents were pitched along the treacherous riverbanks. And the established timeline of human civilization was being dismantled. The American public waited for the inevitable grand unveiling of these spectacular, logic-defying antiquities in Washington, D.C. Months slowly passed without a single whisper of an official update. Then years silently slipped away. The massive, historically shattering expeditions simply vanished from the public record like smoke caught in a hurricane. How does an entire army of federally funded researchers and thousands of priceless artifacts simply evaporate from the face of the earth? Independent investigators, rival academics, and eager journalists began firing off relentless inquiries to the nation's capital. They demanded immediate access to the Kincaid expedition files. They wanted to photograph the copper weapons and examine the mummified remains. The response they finally received from the highest echelons of American science was absolute, clinical, and profoundly chilling. But here is where the narrative plunges into a complete institutional blackout. The Smithsonian Institution, the monolithic gatekeeper of the American historical record, did not just politely deny the archaeological findings. They aggressively denied the very existence of the people involved. Official government archivists stated categorically that no individual named G.E. Kincaid had ever been employed, contracted, or even corresponded with by their organization. They claimed absolutely no record whatsoever of any Professor S.A. Jordan existing anywhere within their extensive, meticulously maintained employee directories. Every purported photograph, every sketch of the hieroglyphs, and every physical sample supposedly collected during the early phases of the dig was declared non-existent. The physical evidence had seemingly been swallowed by an impenetrable bureaucratic black hole. According to the unwavering official government stance, the entire 1909 expedition was nothing more than a spectacularly elaborate fiction. It was summarily dismissed as a cheap, sensationalist hoax designed solely to sell newspapers to a gullible, uneducated pioneer public. The prestigious institution issued definitive blanket statements declaring that no Egyptian, Tibetan, or any other Old World artifacts had ever been discovered anywhere within the North American continent. The bureaucratic denial was so comprehensive, so swift, and so entirely uncompromising that it paradoxically achieved the exact opposite of its intended effect. It did not kill the rumors. It weaponized them. The complete silence of the giant did not prove the underground city was fake. To the growing legion of believers, it definitively proved the cover-up was horrifyingly real. Conspiracy theorists and amateur historians immediately began meticulously dissecting the institution's sweeping, almost defensive dismissals. They aggressively pointed out the immense, undeniable motive for a systemic cover-up at the highest levels of academia. Acknowledging a highly advanced, pre-Columbian Egyptian presence in the American West would completely shatter the established academic foundation. If those lotus-holding statues were real, The history books taught in every school across the country were fundamentally broken. Decades of peer-reviewed research would be instantly incinerated. Countless academic reputations and entire university departments would be intellectually vaporized. The stakes were simply too high to allow such a disruptive truth to see the light of day. The Smithsonian held the ultimate, unquestioned authority over the nation's collective historical memory, possessing the unilateral power to classify, bury, or entirely erase inconvenient truths that threatened the accepted paradigm. To the increasingly skeptical public mind, the complete documentary erasure of Kincaid and Jordan was not evidence of a hoax, but a ruthless, systematic purge. The narrative rapidly mutated from a simple tale of discovery into a dark, sinister saga of aggressive government suppression. The sprawling canyon was no longer viewed as just a geological marvel. It had been permanently transformed into a vault, holding the deliberately suppressed, forbidden origins of human civilization. Tower of Ra, Isis Temple, Osiris Temple, Shiva Temple. Unfold a modern topographical map of the Grand Canyon. The official federal documents read like a directory of ancient deities. These are not obscure local nicknames whispered by tour guides. They are designated federal landmarks carved into official cartography. Conspiracy theorists point to this exact nomenclature as the ultimate smoking gun. They argue the government could erase Kincaid. They could easily shred the academic employment records of Professor Jordan. They could easily melt down the bronze artifacts, or hide the lotus-holding statues deep within the darkest Smithsonian vaults. But they failed to erase the massive geographic footprints. The believers claim these specific names were secretly assigned to physically mark the exact locations of the subterranean archaeological zones. They view the entire canyon map as a hidden cipher hiding the devastating truth in plain sight. The logic appears remarkably sound on the surface. If no Egyptian artifacts were ever found in the region, naming the surrounding peaks after pharaonic gods seems entirely nonsensical. It feels like a massive bureaucratic slip by an arrogant government. It feels like a taunt from an institution that thought the ordinary pioneer public would never connect the historical dots. The geographical proximity of these specifically named peaks to the alleged location of Kincaid's cave only fuels the raging fire of the cover-up theory. Every year thousands of modern internet sleuths digitally zoom in on these exact coordinates searching for pixelated anomalies. They treat the official government map as a treasure hunt blueprint accidentally left behind by a careless federal cartographer. They trace lines between the Tower of Set and the Horus Temple looking for the entrance to the Forbidden City. But the real secret of the map is far more fascinating than a buried treasure. The origin of these names has absolutely nothing to do with hidden mummies or suppressed archaeological excavations. The truth is actually documented in a completely different set of historical archives entirely ignored by the conspiracy theorists. The exotic names were officially cemented into the geological record in the year 1882. This was 27 full years before Kincaid supposedly paddled his wooden boat down the river. The man responsible for this exotic nomenclature was not an undercover government archaeologist. He was an esteemed military officer and geologist named Clarence E. Dutton. Dutton was systematically surveying the breathtaking expanses of the American West for the newly formed United States Geological Survey. He was tasked with creating the first comprehensive tertiary history of the Grand Canyon District. During the late 19th century, American scientists and intellectuals viewed the untamed western frontier through a deeply romanticized lens. They did not just see raw red rocks and dusty riverbeds. They saw monumental architecture crafted by the relentless hands of nature over millions of years. Dutton was profoundly overwhelmed by the sheer scale and majestic beauty of the canyon formations. He felt that naming these massive geological structures after local politicians or ordinary pioneer settlers was a profound insult. He believed this uniquely American landscape rivaled the greatest architectural achievements of human history. Therefore he deliberately reached for the absolute pinnacle of ancient human mythology to express his awe. He systematically assigned the names of the most powerful Egyptian and Hindu deities to the most impressive geological formations. He named the towering sandstone buttes and sweeping plateaus after gods of creation and destruction to capture natural power. The Isis temple is not a literal marker for a buried Egyptian queen, but a testament to imagination. It is simply a testament to the vivid poetic imagination of a visionary Victorian-era geologist. The names are not a bureaucratic slip revealing a massive institutional cover-up, but a permanent tribute. They are for a man who looked at the raw American wilderness and saw temples built by time. Today, the ultimate proof for modern conspiracy theorists isn't found in crumbling newspaper archives or dusty university basements. It is found on active digital aviation maps. If you attempt to charter a private helicopter over specific sections, you will hit a massive invisible wall. If you try to pilot a commercial drone near Kincaid's Cave, you will trigger immediate federal alarms. The airspace above these specific canyon sectors is heavily restricted by government. On the ground, the situation appears even more incredibly suspicious to the untrained eye. The National Park Service strictly prohibits human access to vast stretches of the backcountry wilderness. Hikers are permanently banned from entering numerous side canyons and isolated trailheads. To the internet sleuths, this is the final, undeniable smoking gun. They argue that this massive security perimeter is designed to keep prying eyes away from the forbidden subterranean city and the restricted airspace protecting ancient Egyptian artifacts from being exposed. The sheer volume of red tape surrounding the canyon seems almost intentionally designed to breed deep public paranoia. When you look at overlapping jurisdictions of federal aviation bans and armed park ranger patrols, it feels like a military blackout. You are told exactly where you can look, where you can walk, and where you absolutely cannot fly. But here is where the massive conspiracy narrative collides violently with modern administrative reality. The real secret hidden within this restricted airspace is not a classified archaeological cover-up. The strict flight limitations have absolutely nothing to do with hiding pharaohs, Tibetan monks, or ancient copper weapons. The Federal Aviation Administration officially established the Special Flight Rules Area in 1987 for a thoroughly documented reason. Decades of unregulated tourist flights had completely shattered the natural acoustic environment of the national park. The constant, deafening roar of low-flying commercial tour helicopters was fundamentally destroying the wilderness experience for visitors. The government did not enact these stringent aviation laws to blindfold the American public. They enacted them to permanently restore the profound natural silence of the geological wonder. The sweeping ground-level restrictions enforced by the National Park Service follow an equally logical and rigorously documented framework. Every single year, the park authorities publish a highly detailed legal document known as the Superintendent's Compendium. This federal document explicitly outlines why certain remote trails and hidden caves are permanently classified as off-limits. There is absolutely no mention of classified Smithsonian excavation sites or confiscated lotus statues. Instead, the restrictive zones are deliberately established to protect fragile and highly endangered local wildlife populations. Many of the towering, inaccessible cliff faces are vital, undisturbed nesting grounds for the protected peregrine falcon. Allowing thousands of amateur explorers to freely scale these sheer rock walls would trigger an immediate ecological catastrophe. The federal government is legally obligated to prioritize the survival of these species over the recreational curiosity of adventurers. The heavy trespassing fines and strict boundaries are practical environmental shields, not sinister archaeological cloaks. But there is a much deeper, profoundly cultural reason for the massive restricted zones spread across the canyon floor. Long before European explorers or ambitious Victorian geologists ever mapped this rugged terrain, it was considered deeply sacred. For countless generations, Native American tribes have maintained a profound spiritual connection to the hidden depths of this vast landscape. The Hopi, the Zuni, the Navajo, and other indigenous nations consider specific isolated regions within the gorge to be sacred ancestral shrines. For decades, these culturally vital locations were carelessly trampled, vandalized, and looted by disrespectful pioneer tourists and unauthorized artifact hunters. The modern access restrictions are the direct result of hard-fought legal battles to protect these genuine historical sites from further desecration. The National Park Service now strictly enforces these boundaries out of mandatory legal respect for indigenous sovereignty and religious freedom. The government is indeed guarding ancient secrets buried deep within the canyon walls. But they are not the fabricated secrets of a fictitious Egyptian colony imported by a fraudulent newspaper article. They are the incredibly real, deeply sacred cultural heritage of the indigenous people who have called this majestic American landscape home for thousands of years. How do you separate a century-old newspaper hoax from modern bureaucratic reality? You do not need to rely on anonymous internet forums. But here is where the investigation becomes entirely your own. You can actually map the invisible walls of the canyon yourself. You have the exact same access to the primary federal data as any professional researcher operating in the United States. The government maintains vast, publicly accessible digital archives detailing every single restricted inch of the national park system. You simply need to know exactly where to look and how to accurately translate their administrative language. The investigative tools are already sitting right in front of you. Open your web browser and navigate to the official domain. Ensure the web address specifically ends in .gov to verify you are accessing the primary federal database. Search specifically for the Grand Canyon Superintendent's Compendium. This is not a classified intelligence dossier hidden in a Washington basement. It is a legally binding, publicly mandated document updated annually by regional park authorities. Scroll past the standard tourist camping regulations and locate the specific sections detailing backcountry area closures. You will find exact topographical coordinates and specific geographical boundaries for every permanently prohibited zone. Read the attached federal legal justifications very carefully. The administrative text will never mention suppressed archaeological excavations or confiscated Egyptian antiquities. It will explicitly cite the mandatory protection of highly endangered avian nesting sites. It will legally document the strict preservation of recognized Native American cultural and religious boundaries. The administrative evidence of environmental and historical preservation is meticulously categorized for anyone willing to read it. Next, turn your investigative attention to the heavily monitored airspace above the canyon. Search the Federal Registry for the Federal Aviation Administration's official aeronautical charts. Look specifically for the detailed Grand Canyon Special Flight Rules area map. The digital aviation charts will display a highly complex grid of colored flight zones and strict altitude ceilings. These are the exact supposed invisible walls shielding the forbidden city from civilian eyes. Examine the operational federal footnotes attached directly to these strict flight restrictions. They clearly outline the comprehensive noise abatement protocols officially established back in 1987. They meticulously detail the precise flight corridors mandated to safely separate low-flying commercial tours from the silent wilderness below, by independently cross-referencing the NPS ground closures with the FAA. Airspace restrictions. The sinister government conspiracy rapidly dissolves into a transparent grid of modern environmental law. You are no longer just a passive consumer of historical internet rumors. You are an active participant in digital archaeology. The real administrative secrets of the canyon are documented entirely in plain sight. The Grand Canyon remains one of the most unimaginably vast and largely unexplored frontiers on the entire North American continent. We crave the existence of forbidden cities because the ordinary truth of geological erosion simply feels too quiet for such a monumental landscape. The administrative secrets are in plain sight. But as you stand on that towering rim staring down into the terrifyingly silent abyss, a lingering thought remains. Are we truly just looking at millions of years of empty red stone? Or are we simply incapable of seeing what the darkness is actively hiding right in front of us?